Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different video. We're actually going to be doing the very first top 5 video on the channel. So I'm really excited to bring this one to you guys. I actually was flipping through my ban binder, which has every single ban card in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! In it. And as I flipped through it, I started thinking, what cards could actually come off the list and go to 1 from ban to 1? And I wanted to play around with that to see exactly what could come off the list. And I actually started talking to my patrons over in my Discord, and they helped me out a lot with this list. So I really quickly want to give a thank you to all my patrons who helped out with this. And definitely don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon just like they did down in the description below to get all those awesome rewards like getting your name description in a single video, getting a signed card in the mail, or even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron along with test hands. And we're going to get straight on in to this top 5 video right now. Okay, so starting with number 5, guys, I'm going to start talking about a little card called Astrograph Sorcerer, which I'm going to put up on the screen right now. And then this card is a really interesting card that I think could come off the ban list. It's not as powerful as it used to be, in my opinion, but let's go over its effect really quickly. So what this card does, basically, and I've got it right here, during your main phase, you can destroy this card, and if you do, you take 1 Stargazer Magician from your hand or deck and either add it to your Pendulum Zone or special summon it. Now, that's an okay effect. It does kind of work the same way as Time Gazer Magician, which is kind of neat, and the Time Chronograph Sorcerer, which is a really neat card that's kind of its counterpart, but it also has a really neat monster effect that made it really overpowered and made it really, really good. So what it does is if a card you control is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can instantly special summon this card from your hand. Then you can choose 1 monster in your graveyard or extra deck, or that's banished, that was destroyed this turn, and add 1 monster with the same name from your deck to your hand. And you can banish this card plus 4 from your hand, field, or graveyard, 1 each of the Pendulum Dragons from XZ, Synchro, Fusion in their names, and special summon a Supreme King's Arc from your extra deck. Now that effect is really powerful because it does give you a search of essentially any card that you need, but I feel like with Heavy Metal Foes Electromite being banned, that pendulums have been nerfed, especially with Master Rule 4, where you do have to special summon, or Master Rule 5 now, where you have to special summon into the link zones of link monsters to actually pendulum summon from the extra deck. So I think that this card has actually been balanced a lot, and I feel like it could go to 1 and nothing would really change, to be perfectly honest with you guys. Okay, so number 4, guys, on the list is actually going to be Masterpiece, the True Draco Slaying King. Now, this is a card that we're going to put up on the screen as well, and I'm really interested to talk about this card, because this is a card that every time that they have a ban list, I really feel like that card can go back to 1, and really nothing would change. So it's a really powerful boss monster. It's essentially kind of like a Apocryphal Towers monster, or an Ultimate Falcon, or a Full Armor Master for those who play Black Wings like myself. But what's really cool about this card is what it does is you to tribute summon this card, you can tribute summon continuous spells and traps. I actually have the card right here. But you tribute continuous spells or traps to summon this card to your side of the field. And then depending on which ones you actually tribute to summon out this card to your side of the field, depends on what it can be immune to. So for example, if I tribute a continuous trap and a continuous spell, it's immune to continuous trap and continuous spell effects. Or not continuous ones, but any spell effect or any trap effect, which is a very powerful effect on a monster to be immune to those things. But as you can see, there is an Achilles heel on this card. Whatever you don't tribute, it's still affected by. And also, it being a 2950 beat stick is really, really powerful, but at the same time, it's not impossible for a card to get over this card. Like, for example, with Red Eyes Dark Dragoon being an extremely powerful card, whereas the True Draco, the Draco Slaying King, this card can be outed by a lot of cards like, for example, it can be outed by Utopia Double, which any deck that can play rank 4s can just completely out it. The other really powerful effect of this card is it's a kind of a disruption. It's not quite a negate, but it is a disruption that once during either player's turn, if you control a tribute summon monster, you can banish 1 continuous spell and trap from your grave, and then target 1 other card on the field and destroy it. So it is popping cards every single turn, which is an extremely powerful effect, but I think in today's modern day Yu-Gi-Oh!, especially with the way True Dracos are now, and with seeing True King's Return going back to 3 on the last list, I just feel like this card could go back to 1 and it really wouldn't change all that much. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about number 3 on the list, and I'm really interested to see this one because this one's going to be kind of a weird one for you guys, but I'm actually going to go with 2 cards on this position, and it's going to be Perform Pal Monkey Board, and Perform Pal Skullcrabat Joker. So those are really interesting ones. I don't think that they could both come off the list at the exact same time, but I feel like if you gave us back one or the other, it wouldn't be insanely broken to put them at one each at a given time. Either or, not both, but one or the other. I think that these are really interesting cards because what Skullcrabat Joker does, going over that card very briefly, you can't Pendulum Summon except for Perform Pal Magician or Pendulum monsters or Odd Eyes monsters cannot be negated. Their effects cannot be negated. And it has the ability that when this card is normal summoned, only when it's normal summoned, you can add a Perform Pal monster, Magician Pendulum monster, or Odd Eyes monster from your deck to your hand, which is a very interesting effect for this card because it's essentially the searcher of the entire deck. I really feel like this card going back to 1 really wouldn't change all that much because Pendulums have already been nerfed, but with Electromite being banned and a lot of other cards on the list, like Astrograph being banned currently, I really don't feel like it would change that much if Skullcrabat went to 1 and is the most likely out of the 2 to actually go back to 1. Now let's talk about Monkey Board really quick. Monkey Board's a little bit of a weird one, and I could see this card staying banned pretty much indefinitely, but at the same time, I really feel like Monkey Board is one of those cards that it kind of sounds really, really good on paper, but at the same time, at 1, it'd be so inconsistent that you really wouldn't see it getting played all that much. So what this card basically does is unless you have a Perform Pal card in your other Pendulum Zone, this card's Pendulum Scale becomes 4. It also has the ability that during your main phase, if this card was activated this turn, you get to add 1 level 4 or lower Perform Pal monster from your deck to your hand, which is a really good card effect that essentially is another searcher for the deck, which made the deck extremely consistent. It then had the ability that's a monster effect that you can discard this card to reveal any Perform Pal or Odd Eyes monster in your hand, and if you do, reduce that monster's level or reduce the level of monsters in your hand with that name by 1 for the rest of the turn. That is not a big effect at all. Reducing the level of them by 1 changes it a little bit where you can Pendulum Summon for 1 less scale, but it doesn't come up all that often to be able to actually change that effect. So I feel like these two could actually both go to 1 each, and it really wouldn't put Perform Pal or Odd Eyes or Pendulum Magicians over the edge to be even a tier 1 meta-defining deck at this point because Electromite is still banned. Okay, so now we're talking about number 2, and this one might get a lot of you in the comments section to go at me, but I really think that this one's going to be an interesting one that either you're going to love it or you're going to hate it. So here we go. I think that Thunder Dragon Colossus could come back to 1, not 3, not 2, but 1, and it wouldn't break the meta, to be perfectly honest with you guys. Because, yes, the card is a mistake on the field. I know. But what the card does, basically, is it locks your opponent down from going into the main deck, which is a really cool thing that it makes it so they cannot search. It does have built-in protection because it has the ability that it must be fusion summoned or special summoned during the turn a Thunder Monster's effect was activated in the hand. By tributing any Thunder Monster on your side of the field, you can immediately special summon this card out from the extract. To be honest with you guys, I'm not even really sure why this card is a fusion card because you never fusion summon it out its regular way with 2 Thunder Monsters. It also has the ability that cards cannot be added from the main deck to your opponent's hand except by drawing them. And if this card would be destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can banish a Thunder Monster from your graveyard instead, which goes with all of your Thunder Dragon's effects go off when they're banished, which is a very interesting concept for the deck. But I feel like Thunder Dragon, ever since Thunder Dragon Colossus got banned, the deck has not been able to do anything at all. But I feel like this card could go back to 1, and the majority of meta decks could handle 1 Thunder Dragon Colossus. I even know my Black Wings could handle 1 Thunder Dragon Colossus with no problem, and the deck would not really change all that much. It might become a tier 2 rogue deck, but at that, I think that the card could come back to 1, and it really wouldn't change the meta. Okay, so before we get into number 1, guys, I really quickly want to do an honorable mentions, and my honorable mentions are going to actually be all 3 of the Dragon Rulers. I think that's a really interesting concept because I love the Dragon Rulers. I think they're really awesome, and I've actually done deck profiles of the Dragon Rulers, even though they're all pretty much at 0 on the ban list, except for Tempest being at 1. But I really feel like that all 3 of them could go back to 1 after, not now, but after Guard Dragon LP goes to 0 on the ban list. I don't feel like right now, because Dragon Link is absolutely crazy, and we don't need to give any more to Dragon Link. That deck is just insane right now. But I really feel like after that deck kind of falls to the wayside and that gets handled on the ban list, I really feel like all 3 of the Dragon Rulers could come back to 1, and it really wouldn't change all that much, because Tempest has been around for a while and hasn't done all that much. But if we're going in order of which ones I think could come off the ban list next, I feel like Blaster would be the first one, because all it really does is destroy a card on the field, which is really a good effect, but it has to do with fire effects. And what fire deck outside of, I don't know, Volcanics is really, really good to be able to utilize that? Maybe Laval's, stuff like that. There are some good fire decks out there, but there are not enough to warrant the card being at 0 any longer, outside of, say, Dragon Link. We then go to Tidal. Tidal is a really powerful card and is an amazing, amazing monster. But outside of Mermails, I really didn't play Tidal in anything else, even when it was limited. And when it was at 3, besides a pure Dragon Ruler deck and that card being at 1, I still played it in Mermail and saw it every so often. Then we go to Redox. Redox is a little bit of a weird one, because that card could be utilized actually by Zodiac, because the entire archetype is Earth, and it can kind of work like a Monster Reborn, which is a little bit of a bad situation. But it is an option, and I think that that one would be the last one that would actually come off the list. So let's get into number 1 right now. Hey guys, let's talk about number 1 now. And I just want to really quickly thank all of you guys for sticking it through with me and getting to this point of talking about the number 1 card that I think could come off the ban list and go to 1, and it wouldn't change the meta. And this one is going to be a doozy. So here we go. I think personally that Spellbook of Judgment, I know that is a very powerful card, and I know that's like the boogeyman of the ban list. I feel like that card could go to 1 and it wouldn't change the ban list at all. Because if you look at what the card actually does, it's actually a little bit, and hear me out here, it's a little bit slow, actually. So here's what the card does. During the end phase of the turn this card was activated, add Spellbook spell cards from your deck to your hand, except Spellbook of Judgment, up to the number of spell cards activated after this card's resolution. Then you can special summon 1 spellcaster monster from your deck whose level is less than or equal to the number of cards added to your hand by this effect. That is an extremely powerful effect. To be able to special summon any spellcaster from your deck that can be any level from your deck that has the same amount of spell cards added from your deck to your hand off that effect is extremely powerful. Do not get me wrong, but when was the last time we heard spellbooks do anything in the meta outside of when Dragon Rulers were around? Because at the same time that Dragon Rulers were hit, spellbooks were hit, and we lost Spellbook of Judgment. But I feel like if that card went to 1, there are plenty of ways to actually search it in the deck, but it resolves in the end phase, which is why I think the card could come back to 1, because you'd have to search it and base the entire deck mechanic around searching that 1 card out of your deck to hope that you could get a bunch of pluses. But remember, when that card came out, we didn't have cards like Ash Blossom, Thunder Dragon Colossus, and other cards like Mistake that could totally block our opponent from touching the deck at all. So I feel like that card could come back to 1, and it really wouldn't change a lot of what the deck plays, and it wouldn't change where the deck still plays stuff like Jowgen and still goes off with plays like that to lock your opponent down, and then use Spellbook of Judgment as an essential play in the deck to get you a bunch of searches, which is a really interesting concept for you guys. So, thank you so much, guys, for checking out this video, and I really appreciate you guys sticking through this one with me. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of notifications, and tell me what cards you think could actually come off the ban list, and comment all of those down below, because I would love to hear from you guys and hear what cards you think could go from ban to 1, and nothing would change in Yu-Gi-Oh! So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys!